What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, giving you commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Before I get started, I need to say a couple of quick part announcements, quick part feelings. First and foremost, let me send my thoughts and prayers to everybody and all the families and everybody who was affected by these past massacres that have been going on. Special thoughts and prayers to the people of California and all the 13 cities who were unfortunately victims of chaos. So my thoughts and prayers are to those cities. My thoughts and prayers are to San Jose, California. And also, moving on, I want to thank all the new subscribers and thank all the people who watch and view. Special shout out to the new subscriber, Boss Antelope 86. Sorry about the food poisoning. Hope you're glad to see you're feeling better. Special shout out to the new subscriber. And without further ado, thank you all who are here. Let's get started with some good Smackdown talk, or my own version of Smack Talk. What an opening. What an opening. I gotta say, that was one of the best openings, in my personal opinion. An amazing opening. People say the kickoff is not that important. It all depends because Seth Rollins defeating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 35, I believe. Yes, 35. Kicked off the show. That was good. You have Edge versus Del Rio in my first hometown of Atlanta, kicking off the show at WrestleMania. World Heavyweight Championship on the line. So you can have good, high quality matches in the beginning of the show. And that's what we saw tonight. An amazing tag team match. Before we got there, we saw a lot of back and forth promo words by both the Usos and the Street Profits. Both made some amazing points. Now, I don't think Montez Ford should have made fun of, because we're in such sensitive times. I don't think Montez should have made fun of the Usos like that with their dance, their special Samoan dance that they used to do back when they wore the face paint. So I don't know if that's the best idea. Some might consider it offensive, just like a lot of people considered it offensive when John Cena called Taiwan, I don't know, I hope I pronounced that correctly, a country when it is not. So, and he had to apologize for it and he got a lot of heat for it. So things happen. So I don't know if that was the best idea because, we're living in the times where one wrong move could be considered offensive. And so you got to be very careful what you say. So, but with that being said, both tag teams were amazing. And I got to be honest, last week I was very concerned that something was going to happen and Roman was going to have one of the brothers, Jay, step in and try to betray him or mess it up. There were a couple of people, and I know there are some who are watching, who thought that Jay would turn on his brother alongside with Roman Reigns. Many people were concerned that that was going to happen. A lot of people, including myself, thought that this match was just too good to be true. Or because the Usos versus the Street Profits, to us, it was a dream match. And I thought, somebody gonna do something to ruin this because it is too good to happen on a show. Thankfully, it was too good that they allowed it to go down. And I gotta say, it was an amazing match. I always thought that Montez Ford was like the urban Spider-Man. For those of you who saw one of the Spider-Man cartoons where Spider-Man was an African American character in an animated movie, I thought if they brought it to life, Montez Ford would make a perfect version of that. But when he dived over the turnbuckle down to one of the Usos, that was amazing to see. He's always great to watch. I think he does one of the best frog splash. I've expressed it many times. In my personal opinion, he does one of the best frog splashes. And if there's a YouTuber named Baron Clash who does YouTube videos on who does it the best, who does the best choke slams, who does the best power bombs. If they do a who does the best frog splash, Eddie Guerrero, God rest his soul, RVD, who was a Hall of Famer this year, and Montez Ford will be at the top of that list. So an amazing match between both those guys. I'm glad we got a finish because I didn't think we would, honestly, because the match looked too good to be true, but thankfully it happened. A pay-per-view match caliber for the first time took place on Smackdown, which I thought was very amazing. Um, After the match, the Usos won using their I believe it was their own version of the splash, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah. So either way, they used their own move, won the match, and it was amazing. That match did not disappoint. In fact, in my personal opinion, for those of us who remember playing SmackDown versus Raw in their teen years or in your childhood, you remember that WWE wrestling game, SmackDown versus Raw, had what's called General Manager mode. And you could put matches, and your job was to compete with Raw. And if you had SmackDown versus Raw from 2008, you were competing against Raw and ECW, the modern day ECW. And so, if this match was on SmackDown versus Raw 2004, 5, 6, 7, etc., that match would have got at least 4.5 stars. That match was amazing to me. Very much amazing to me. And the Usos were able to win. So, with that being said, Roman tries to stir the pot because apparently in this Family Feud saga, Roman, who is the SmackDown Universal Champion, the main event championship, by the way, the tribal god, as the elitists call him, went out and he began to, in the back, Roman Reigns, and Jey Uso sat down together, and it was brought up that next week there would be a tag team match between the winners of tonight, which I'm going to get to in just a second. So Roman Reigns started to scriptingly, in his heelish ways, stir the pot, getting him to say, I understand you're back with your brother, but what about you and me? You said you're with me. Now, I just don't want you to go out there, and I don't want you to go back to that place where they begin to ask you, which one are you? Which one? I mean, clearly we know which one is which. That was supposed to be an not too subliminal insult to Jey, to say that before he was just that twin that we couldn't tell the difference between. But now he's getting his own single push, and Roman's saying, you want to go back to being the kid that you want to go back to being the kid that they're asking which one's who? Now everyone knows your name. You're main event Uso now. You're the right-hand man. That's a good impersonation. Let me know if that was a good impersonation in the comments. But either way, I'm not the best at voicing, but I just do my best to have fun. But hey, what he's trying to say is nobody knows who you really are because you're a twin. But now everybody knows your name. But even now, we still know your name. We know the difference because you have shorter hair and Jimmy still has his longer hair. So we know who's who. Just like when later on throughout their career, the Bellas, who are now Hall of Famers, we got to know which one's which. I mean, how do I say this without, because Lord knows I don't want to be offensive. I mean, how do I say this? I gotta stay appropriate. We know how Bree looks. I can tell Bree's voice from Nikki's voice. I can tell Nikki's from Nicole, not Nicole, but from Bree. I can tell the difference in their voice. I can tell the difference in their bodily shape. I can tell who's who now. And we can tell who's who with Jimmy and Jay simply because of the hair color and the fact that Jay Uso still does the right hand man t-shirt, whereas last week Jimmy had the Nobody's Biscuit t-shirt. But either way, Roman tried to stir the pot. Thankfully that didn't, apparently that's not working out, thankfully, because I appreciate and I respect the singles push that Jay is getting. We all need a push to be great at some point. But at the same time, we really enjoy them as a tag team as well. And they reminded us how great they were tonight. Two of the best tag teams of SmackDown coming together. Also, speaking of tag teams, there's a lesson that I want to give you today. And I'm not trying to put my beliefs on anyone. I'm just saying, regardless of what you believe, do not interrupt or attack a man while he is praying. We saw Rey Mysterio in his pose, and anyone that knows Mysterio knows that he is somewhat in his own right, like his best friend Eddie Guerrero, God rest his soul. He in his own right, in some ways, is a man of faith himself. So we saw Rey Mysterio on a knee, bowing down, saying a prayer. We don't know what he was saying, but we know he was in a prayer pose. And so Dominic comes in to see if he's ready. So Rey says, I'll be there in a minute, of course, and he continues in his prayer. Next thing you know, we come off a television commercial, and Rey Mysterio has been attacked. Likewise with WrestleMania Backlash. So Dominic Mysterio decides, I'm going to go in and I'm going to fight single-handedly. It was hard. He gave his, and the numbers game would eventually catch up to him. However, he was able to somewhat get the upper hand and attempt to do his right-handed side, the correct-handed side of the 619. However, thankfully, before the Dirty Dogs could hit their own double teaming moves on him, Rey Mysterio comes to the ring and Dominic is able to do the roll up on Dolph Ziggler for the win. Moral of the story is, don't mess with a person that prays. The higher power, thankfully, is not Mr. McMahon. Anybody remember that from the summer of 1999? But yes, do not mess with someone when they are praying to the higher power. The higher power decided to come in and say, oh, you want to disrupt me? He's talking to me, and you want to disrupt me? The higher power is stronger than the head of the table, with all due respect. So don't mess with the higher power. And when Rey Mysterio and when those dirty dogs, them bunch of dogs, as they said on The Waterboy, when them bunch of dogs attacked Rey Mysterio in the middle of his prayer, because it was on commercial, so we didn't see who did it, but we all know it was him. It was those two. And when we saw it, we immediately realized it was him. It was those two. And they did it while he was praying. So moral of the story is, don't mess with a man in the middle of a conversation with the higher power. It's because now the higher power has to come against you. And he's stronger than the head of the table. Even the head of the table must acknowledge the higher power. So just having a little fun. Moral of that humorous story, don't mess with the higher power. And so thankfully they were able to defend successfully. And next week, the Usos will face the Mysterios in another tag team match, which I expect will be more awesome than The Miz himself, who I hope won't be traumatized when he returns to Raw to host Miz TV with Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, Hell in a Cell opponents. That's all the time I have. See you next time. Good night. Peace out.